Good evening, listeners. This is Mike Clarke, and you're listening to Channel X. We are staying alive as long as we can, holding this line of communication for everyone still out there. At 7:42 p.m. Eastern Time, the first confirmed detonations were reported, initially in Eastern Europe, and now spreading rapidly across multiple regions. What began as isolated strikes has escalated into a full-scale global exchange. The Pentagon has issued a nationwide alert, and all civil defense protocols are now fully active. Sirens are being reported in every major U.S. city east of the Mississippi. Authorities are urging everyone to move underground or into the nearest shelter if one is available. If you can hear my voice and you are within range of an emergency broadcast station, tune to your local frequency for instructions specific to your area. Cellular networks are becoming unreliable, and several power grids have already gone dark across parts of the East Coast. From what we're hearing, the Federal Communication Relay Centers are rerouting everything through emergency satellite uplinks. We've just received word of mass evacuations in progress along the East Coast. New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Boston are all in full-scale lockdown. Highways are gridlocked. Trains have stopped running in several sectors. Emergency crews are overwhelmed. The images coming in, what little we can verify, show chaos and confusion as millions attempt to flee inland. We understand that fear is everywhere right now. We're all feeling it. But please, if you're listening, stay calm and follow the safety guidelines that were broadcast earlier today. We will continue transmitting as long as we have a signal and as long as there's power left in this building. Julia, what's the latest you're getting?
Mike, reports are coming in minute by minute, and each one feels heavier than the last. At this time, we can confirm that NATO response teams have acknowledged multiple impacts across Poland, Germany, and parts of the Czech Republic. Communications with Berlin were lost roughly 20 minutes ago, and attempts to re-establish satellite contact have so far failed. Witnesses describe blinding flashes, followed by total silence. No signals, no transmissions, and no visual confirmation beyond the initial impact. Here in the United States, the military has officially elevated readiness to DEFCON 1, the highest possible level. Strategic forces are reportedly on standby, and NORAD has confirmed that all missile detection arrays are active. The President is expected to address the nation shortly, though we have not yet received confirmation of the broadcast location or the status of the White House. We've also learned that continuity of government procedures are being implemented, meaning key personnel have likely been relocated to secure facilities. If you're tuning in from rural or isolated areas, please remain where you are. Do not attempt to travel toward population centers. Those routes are either impassable or under military restriction. We're receiving scattered missile alerts across the Atlantic corridor from Maine down to Florida. Several coastal defense systems have been activated, and air raid sirens are sounding as far inland as Pittsburgh.
That's correct, Julia. NORAD has now confirmed several launches detected over the North Atlantic. At this point, it's still unclear whether these are defensive intercepts or active inbound warheads. The data is fragmented and coming in from multiple overrun monitoring stations. What we do know is that radar networks across both North America and Europe are experiencing heavy interference. Analysts believe it could be the result of EMP disruption or deliberate jamming activity. Either way, the system is struggling to separate decoys from real threats. We're being told that civilian air traffic has been completely grounded nationwide. All commercial and private flights have been ordered to land immediately. Airspace over Canada, the UK, and much of Western Europe is now under military control. There are unconfirmed reports of mid-air diversions and blackouts across several transatlantic routes before contact was lost. Every available satellite link is being repurposed for defense coordination, which means public communication networks could go dark at any moment. For those of you listening from shelters, please keep your radios powered and conserve battery life. If you have hand crank or solar units, now is the time to use them. Channel X will remain on this frequency as long as we have power, as long as our transmitter holds. We are officially designated as a verified information relay for the emergency broadcast system, and will continue to serve that purpose until the grid collapses. I repeat, we are still on air. You are not alone. Julia.
Stay with us, everyone. We know how frightening this is and how helpless it feels. If you have family or friends in affected regions, please understand that communication lines may already be disrupted. Phone networks, internet access, and even shortwave channels are under immense strain. Do not panic if you can't reach them. It does not necessarily mean the worst. Rescue and response operations are being organized at every level, though the scale of the crisis is making coordination difficult. Emergency agencies are prioritizing medical triage, fire suppression, and radiation containment in areas nearest to confirmed impact zones. If you're outside major cities, stay indoors, seal your windows if possible, and avoid traveling. If you're underground, remain there until official all-clear instructions are issued.
We're monitoring what remains of global feeds and a handful of independent relays still active across Europe, though most of the continental broadcast network has gone dark. Moments ago, satellite imagery confirmed multiple nuclear detonations across Poland, Germany, and the Baltic region. Major population centers, Warsaw, Berlin, and Riga, are reported to be completely offline, showing no remaining electrical activity, no heat signatures, no outgoing transmissions. The scale of destruction indicated by early orbital scans suggests total collapse of critical infrastructure. Our correspondents in Brussels and Oslo stopped transmitting roughly 12 minutes ago. The last fragments we received were audio bursts, distorted, frantic, then silence. The European Union's emergency authority is reportedly attempting to coordinate response centers from underground facilities somewhere in France and Spain, but communication lines are failing faster than expected. Even military frequencies are beginning to degrade, likely from electromagnetic interference caused by overlapping detonations. We're also seeing radiation plumes drifting eastward, carried by upper-level winds. Experts warn that fallout trajectories are unstable and could shift without warning as more detonations occur. I repeat, if you are within the United States, you must shelter immediately. Go underground, if possible. Stay away from windows, and avoid using unshielded electronics. The situation is escalating minute by minute. We can confirm rising radiation readings in the upper atmosphere, not yet at ground level, but climbing fast. Julia, what do we have next?
Mike, we've just received what appears to be the final partial relay from our London bureau. A fragmented message believed to originate from the British government, urging citizens to remain indoors, seal their homes, and conserve water. The message was cut short mid-sentence as the BBC World Service abruptly ceased transmission. No further communication from the UK has been verified since. Radar operators along the Atlantic corridor are reporting unidentified flashes across multiple air corridors, believed to be missile trails or aerial intercepts. None of these have been confirmed, but the pattern suggests continuing launches and countermeasures. The European power grid is effectively down from Denmark to Hungary. Emergency lights remain visible in isolated pockets, but widespread blackouts are now the norm. This is no longer a regional exchange. It is a coordinated global strike scenario. Our sources within FEMA have confirmed that all emergency services in the United States are now operating under federal command, with state authorities fully integrated into the national response structure. Priority zones have been established across the Midwest and mountain regions for long-term sheltering and continuity operations.
European networks remain completely down. All continental signals have ceased, and only a handful of low-band emergency relays are flickering in and out. Scattered flashes continue over the North Atlantic, visible even from inland radar sweeps. Defense analysts now confirm that multiple ballistic launches from both U.S. and Russian silos have been detected in those waters. This is no longer isolated retaliation. We are witnessing a sustained strategic exchange. Washington has officially authorized full strategic readiness. The National Command Authority is in direct control of all remaining active assets. We've received fragmented reports of several intercepts off the eastern seaboard, though no verified data yet on success rates or impact zones. The Pentagon's live communication link with civil broadcasters remains limited. Most official statements are short, delayed, and heavily encrypted. Sirens have been sounding from Boston to Baltimore for the past 30 minutes, signaling confirmed alerts across multiple population centers. Power surges and partial grid drops are being recorded in those regions, likely due to electromagnetic disruption. FEMA and the Department of Energy are now urging all remaining broadcast stations to stay live and maintain transmission continuity for as long as possible. Here at ChannelX, we will remain on air until instructed otherwise. If you are along the coast, move inland or below ground immediately. If you're already in shelter, do not leave, even if the sirens stop. The next few hours will determine whether this event remains survivable or not. Stay where you are. Stay calm. Julia, what are you seeing on your end?
Unverified satellite imagery from Maine and Nova Scotia shows what appears to be a distant white bloom expanding along the northern Atlantic horizon, most likely an ocean-based detonation or high-altitude intercept. We cannot confirm yield or origin, but the visual signatures match those of a large thermonuclear discharge. Homeland Security has now placed all Atlantic states under maximum shelter protocol. That includes mandatory lockdowns, restricted airspace, and sealed transportation corridors. Across the Midwest, military convoys and emergency task groups are moving toward hardened installations, primarily around Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming. Civilians are being told to clear major highways to allow transport of defense and medical personnel. The White House issued a single-line statement roughly 10 minutes ago. The United States has responded proportionally to confirmed hostile strikes. No clarification, no elaboration, and no press contact since. It is the shortest presidential communication in modern history. Several listeners across the East Coast and Great Lakes are reporting heavy interference on FM and shortwave bands, consistent with ionization in the upper atmosphere following nuclear bursts. Static, distortion, and total blackouts are being reported on frequencies above 90 megahertz. Mike, we're also seeing Asian feeds breaking apart. Transmissions from Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan are flickering in and out. Something is happening across the Pacific, but so far, no one is confirming what.
Yes, Julia. Our monitoring systems are showing a rapid and near-total collapse of communications across Asia. What began as isolated flashes on orbital sensors has now been confirmed as multiple nuclear impacts. Initial detonations over northern India have been verified through satellite thermal imagery. Those signatures are unmistakable. New Delhi, Islamabad, and several Chinese border provinces are showing simultaneous heat spikes consistent with strategic warheads. According to intercepted defense telemetry, regional command structures appear to have lost operational control. Both India and Pakistan initiated launch sequences within minutes of each other, triggering what analysts are calling a cascading retaliatory exchange. The scale of it is staggering. Detonations across densely populated corridors, massive electromagnetic interference spreading through the subcontinent. Beijing's external communications ceased abruptly at 8:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Since then, not a single verified signal has been received from mainland China. Civilian satellite feeds over the South China Sea are capturing secondary launches, possibly submarine-based, indicating a wider regional escalation. The U.S. Pacific Fleet has now moved into total defense posture, with carrier groups repositioning and missile defense systems active across Guam, Hawaii, and the West Coast. By every measurable indicator, launch density, thermal output, and signal blackout, we are now witnessing a global nuclear exchange. Every major military power appears to be engaged. We have crossed the final threshold. Julia, what do you have?
To all listeners tuning in from Hawaii, Alaska, and the U.S. West Coast, this message is for you. Authorities are urging immediate shelter. Repeat, move underground or into designated fallout zones. Do not attempt to evacuate coastal areas. Traffic systems have already been suspended. Military communication bans confirm multiple missile tracks across the Pacific, both inbound and outbound. The situation is fluid and worsening. Japan's national broadcast network issued a single distress bulletin before collapsing entirely. Its final words were "seek shelter immediately." Australia has begun evacuating coastal cities amid reports of ash and atmospheric disturbance spreading inland. We are receiving fragmented transmissions from shortwave operators in the Philippines, describing an orange-red sky stretching from horizon to horizon, likely the result of upper atmospheric ionization and debris clouds reflecting thermal light. No further signals from Southeast Asia have been authenticated since. Across the U.S. West Coast, power fluctuations are being reported. California's grid is unstable. Oregon and Washington have begun switching to emergency generators. Hospitals, defense installations, and key communication nodes are operating in isolation mode. If you are still hearing this broadcast, understand what that means. You're still alive, and there is still time to act. Stay low, stay inside, and protect whatever power source you have left.
Large sections of the U.S. electrical grid are collapsing in sequence. One after another, substations are going offline, first along the East Coast, now spreading inland. We've completely lost communication with several of our regional affiliates. Atlanta, Denver, Seattle, all silent. Emergency repeaters are still active in some areas, but their range is unstable and power fluctuates minute to minute. Technical analysts confirm that multiple high-altitude detonations have triggered electromagnetic pulses across the Midwest, frying circuits, radio towers, and civilian communication arrays. The result is a patchwork of darkness, whole states disconnected, isolated. Federal response centers are reportedly trying to reroute data through buried fiber optic lines, but the system is fragmented beyond repair. The Department of Energy has confirmed dozens of infrastructure fires, many near primary transmission nodes and fuel depots. Those running backup generators are being urged to keep them ventilated, but shielded from surges. The grid is unstable, and feedback currents can destroy even protected systems. Here at ChannelX, we're operating on auxiliary batteries and secondary transmitters. The signal strength is dropping, but we'll stay live for as long as this power holds. If you can still hear us, this is your anchor point, your last verified source of information. Stay calm, stay sealed, and don't waste energy on unnecessary transmissions.
Mike, we're still intercepting weak, broken bursts from what remains of overseas networks. The transmissions are almost unreadable, fragments of language, distress tones, automated warnings. What little we can piece together suggests that several major global coalitions have launched direct strikes against each other's command and control centers. The volume and frequency of launches indicate that diplomatic oversight has collapsed entirely. This is no longer escalation, it's free fall. Here in the U.S., individual states are attempting to activate their own emergency coordination channels, though the national grid's instability makes synchronization impossible. Hospitals in coastal regions, New York, Miami, Los Angeles, are reporting massive casualty surges. Supplies of potassium iodide and protective equipment are already depleted. Civilian response teams are running blind, operating on analog equipment and handwritten maps. For those in rural or inland areas, remain indoors for at least 48 hours after initial blast winds subside. Do not go outside under any circumstance until air readings are verified safe. Avoid rainfall. Early stage fallout has likely entered the jet stream and may already be drifting east. We're receiving intermittent civilian transmissions through our backup line. Voices, crying, reports of distant flashes, and static.
Yes. Some signals are finally breaking through the static. We're hearing scattered reports from what remains of independent operators. Bright flashes sighted over Chicago, multiple concussive waves rolling outward, and felt as far south as Nashville. We can't confirm the details. Most data channels are down. But the seismic and radio patterns match the signature of secondary detonations or residual strikes. Analysts are calling this the second phase of engagement. Retaliatory impacts hitting previously spared regions. The Federal Broadcast Authority has issued a unified directive. All remaining transmitters are to conserve output power to stretch the network's lifespan. It's the last coordinated effort to keep the country linked through any remaining signal. Here at ChannelX, we're adjusting to low-frequency cycling, rotating our broadcast every 20 minutes to preserve clarity and range. This will cause brief moments of silence between transmissions. Don't mistake them for the end. If you can still hear us, wherever you are, remember this: you are not alone. This nation still has a voice, faint though it may be. The light may be gone, but the signal remains. We are still here, still speaking.
If you can hear this broadcast, take a moment, just breathe. The initial wave of strikes appears to have passed, at least for now. What remains is the aftermath: radiation, fire, and fear. The real danger in this stage is not only fallout, it's panic. People abandoning shelters, running into contamination zones, trying to reach loved ones they can no longer contact. Please stay where you are. Keep your radios on at the lowest volume possible to conserve power. Rotate batteries if you have spares and store them away from heat. Ration your food and water carefully. Assume outside supplies will not be replenished. If your shelter is sealed and stable, stay inside. Fallout particles may already be settling invisibly on every surface outside. Do not expose yourself to the open air even for a moment. This is not the time for movement. It's the time for endurance. You have survived the unimaginable. Now survival depends on stillness, patience, and resolve.
Current reports confirm large-scale nuclear detonations throughout the Pacific region. Multiple defense and intelligence sources indicate that extensive long-range missile exchanges have occurred over the oceanic corridors connecting the western continental United States to the Pacific coalition states. The data paints a grim picture. A continuous arc of detonations stretching from the Mariana Trench through the North Pacific, all the way toward the Bering Sea. Thermal satellites now show surface temperatures across several coastal zones exceeding all known safety thresholds. Entire stretches of the ocean surface are burning, boiling, or blanketed in fallout clouds. Infrared scans from low-orbit relays confirm multiple firestorms visible from orbit, particularly near the California coastline and portions of the Sea of Japan. Civil authorities across the U.S. West Coast have activated full shelter-in-place directives, covering every major metropolitan area from San Diego through Portland. Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle are all on emergency broadcast-only power. Law enforcement and emergency crews have been withdrawn to deep shelters, leaving only automated alert systems active. All major Pacific ports are now officially closed, including Oakland, Tacoma, and Honolulu. Naval traffic has ceased entirely across the northern Pacific routes, and radar sweeps show the ocean nearly empty of movement, just static and ghost signals. Commercial shipping transponders have vanished from global trackers within the past hour. Global maritime authorities are calling it the largest communications blackout in recorded history. Julia, what are we seeing from the monitoring stations abroad?
Additional alerts are now being issued by international monitoring networks, describing simultaneous detonations all along the Pacific Rim. Early analysis suggests that urban centers in East and Southeast Asia, including portions of Shanghai, Tokyo, Jakarta, and Manila, have likely sustained direct or near-direct impacts. Satellite instruments are detecting seismic reverberations so intense that they are masking natural tectonic readings across the entire basin. The Earth itself is trembling under the weight of these overlapping blasts. Geophysical observatories warn that aftershock mapping is now impossible, as the radiation and pressure distortions have overwhelmed standard sensors. Air currents in the upper atmosphere are driving ash and particulate matter eastward, forming what analysts describe as an emerging stratospheric veil, a dense cloud band extending from Micronesia to the western coast of North America. Radiation monitoring stations in Hawaii and Alaska have moved to critical level protocols, issuing red alert advisories to all public health channels. Emergency bulletins are now recommending immediate protection of water supplies, including the sealing of wells and reservoirs, and the suspension of all outdoor agriculture for a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks, pending contamination assessments. Preliminary global climate projections estimate a sharp decline in average surface temperatures over the next several days as soot and ash density continues to rise. Experts are warning of potential sunlight reduction on a hemispheric scale.
We're receiving confirmation from aviation control authorities of a complete loss of trans-Pacific communication. Every major flight corridor linking Asia, Australia, and North America is now dark. Remaining aircraft are either diverting to emergency landing sites or ditching at sea as navigation systems fail and fuel reserves run low. Power outages now stretch across the entire western United States and much of the central corridor. From Los Angeles to Denver, grids are collapsing in sequence. Energy agencies warn that restoration may be impossible under current atmospheric conditions. High-altitude ionization from multiple detonations has crippled satellite guidance and damaged transmission networks. What limited power remains is being redirected to emergency facilities and deep shelters. Satellite relay bandwidth continues to degrade. Higher frequencies are no longer usable. Only low-frequency radio continues to function with any degree of reliability. Government continuity centers have shifted to deep standby operations, maintaining minimal communication links while surface-level administration effectively shuts down. Julia, what do we have next?
To summarize, the Pacific region is now considered a total conflict zone. Civil aviation, maritime shipping, and commercial activity have ceased entirely. Fallout patterns are expanding laterally across oceanic trade routes, threatening all coastal populations along the Pacific Rim. Airborne contamination is spreading faster than expected due to unstable jet streams. Health agencies worldwide are issuing a unified emergency advisory: remain in sealed environments for a minimum of 72 hours following exposure to initial dust or precipitation. Cover all vents, conserve water, and avoid consuming uncovered food. Radiation levels are rising across western North America and island territories in the Pacific. This is now a sustained global emergency. Stay sheltered, stay calm, and keep your radios tuned to this frequency. Channel X remains on air.
We are receiving verified intelligence updates from multiple defense correspondents and strategic monitoring centers. Moments ago, several high-frequency intercepts confirmed that full retaliation protocols have been activated by remaining NATO command nodes. The United States Strategic Command has issued final stage authorizations across its entire deterrence network. Missile silos throughout the Midwest and Great Plains are now believed to be active, and radar imaging confirms several launches over the continental United States, directed toward targets in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Submarine-based platforms in both the Atlantic and Pacific are reportedly transmitting continuous encrypted data bursts, indicating live deployment orders. Analysts believe this represents the complete execution of the Mutual Assured Destruction framework. Civil aviation frequencies have gone entirely silent. and military control bands are now locked behind classified encryption barriers. All civilian transmissions across North America are being routed through emergency relay stations only. Julia, what's the latest from the Eastern Front?
Eastern networks are now responding in full. The Russian Federation's remaining northern bases have broadcast what military analysts identify as a total counterforce order, the highest possible offensive directive in their strategic hierarchy. Radar stations in Scandinavia, Ukraine, and Turkey are all reporting multiple inbound projectiles. Intercept data suggests broad-spectrum targeting across NATO-aligned territories. China's early warning systems are fully illuminated, with outbound telemetry showing simultaneous radar pings across its entire western frontier. Military bands in North Korea have begun transmitting coded distress frequencies, patterns consistent with confirmed launch readiness. Experts interpret this as evidence that nuclear deployment sequences are either in progress or moments away. Secondary detonations have already been detected along the Ural corridor, likely the result of overlapping strikes or silo breaches. Global defense agencies now classify this phase as a full-scale thermonuclear exchange. All active powers are engaged. There are no remaining safe zones.
Communication between Allied commands appears to be collapsing. Coordination links between NORAD and NATO have been either severed or heavily jammed by atmospheric interference. Strategic Command's data relays are offline, and only low-frequency analog transmissions are cutting through the noise. Civil defense authorities across the United States are now issuing final advisories to all remaining listeners. Move immediately to the lowest interior point of your shelter. Stay away from windows, reflective surfaces, and open air. Avoid contact with metal structures. The electromagnetic pulse from ongoing detonations is expected to impact the continental grid within minutes. Repeating, EMP interference is imminent. Digital systems, including cell networks, GPS, and internet infrastructure, are expected to fail entirely. Keep your radios powered, maintain silence between updates, and minimize battery use. This may be the last verified transmission before total signal loss.
Satellite imagery now confirms a cascading sequence of retaliatory launches across every active front: North America, Europe, and East Asia. Orbital sensors show overlapping ignition trails encircling the planet, forming a continuous ring of atmospheric combustion near the equatorial band. Defense analysts are warning that the cumulative radiation output from simultaneous detonations has already surpassed all known historical models. Global navigation systems are degrading. Most satellites are either disabled or drifting from stable orbit. Oceanic currents are shifting violently under synchronized shock waves, disrupting magnetic fields and altering tidal flows. The distinction between isolated regional conflict and total planetary war no longer exists. Every nuclear-capable nation has now engaged. This is, by all available evidence, the full realization of thermonuclear confrontation.
It is now confirmed. All primary lines of communication between national governments have fallen silent. No official transmissions are being received from Washington, Moscow, Beijing, or London. Military coordination channels have gone completely dark. Data from surviving satellite arrays show that the majority of command relays have either been vaporized in strikes or intentionally deactivated under last resort security protocols. This marks an unprecedented event in human history: the total collapse of global governance infrastructure. For the first time since the dawn of the atomic era, there exists no verified central authority, no chain of command, no international dialogue. Every signal we once relied upon to define order has disappeared into static.
Our remaining affiliates across Canada, Europe, and the Pacific Rim confirm the same condition: silence. Emergency coordination networks are unresponsive. Automated defense systems appear to have executed shutdown sequences after losing synchronization with Central Command. Global aviation and naval activity have ceased entirely. Zero confirmed movement in the air or at sea. The final reconnaissance craft transmitting from the Arctic Circle terminated contact 20 minutes ago. Analysts describe this as a full-spectrum communications blackout, a scenario once relegated to theoretical nuclear drills, now materialized in real time. The planet, as of this broadcast, is without coordination, without command, and without confirmation of survival beyond what each of us can still hear.
It is now confirmed. All primary lines of communication between national governments have ceased. We are receiving no verified transmissions from Washington, D.C., Moscow, Beijing, or London. Command frequencies that have remained active for decades under every known crisis are now silent. According to surviving telemetry, orbital relays show that nearly all global communication satellites have either been destroyed by high-altitude detonations or disabled through cascading power failure. Intelligence analysts believe several command centers were directly targeted in synchronized strikes, effectively decapitating the global leadership structure. Nuclear command and control infrastructure, the systems built to ensure retaliation and coordination, have gone dark. This includes not only military channels, but civilian emergency networks, diplomatic hotlines, and even automated alert systems. For the first time in the history of the atomic era, there are no signals, no directives, no recorded attempts at negotiation or surrender. Every capital city once responsible for maintaining global stability is now absent from the airwaves. The absence of official voices means that, operationally, there is no centralized government left on Earth. The world is, at this moment, leaderless, functioning only through whatever isolated survivors remain capable of transmitting. If you are still hearing this, you are among the last connected fragments of a system that no longer exists.
We've received confirmation from our remaining partners across Canada, Europe, and the Pacific that this blackout is total. Every regional network reports the same: empty frequencies, interrupted data streams, and inactive transmitters. Automated defense systems appear to have triggered their own termination protocols after losing Central Command verification. In essence, the world's largest arsenals have fired, and the systems that launched them have ceased to exist. Monitoring agencies confirm that all transcontinental air and maritime movement has stopped. Commercial and military aircraft have either landed, crashed, or vanished from radar. The oceans are without navigation beacons. Satellite positioning is gone. The last known reconnaissance drone over the Arctic Circle ceased transmission 20 minutes ago. What remains are scattered analog signals. Shortwave operators, emergency shelters, and stations like ours, operating independently with no outside validation. Experts once theorized this outcome, a full-spectrum communications collapse, as the final phase of global nuclear war, when electromagnetic interference, ionized atmospheres, and infrastructure loss render the planet blind and mute. We are now living inside that theory. The world's electrical heart has stopped. Every human voice that remains will depend on battery, static, and courage.
The U.S. power grid is collapsing in large, uncontrollable waves. Major urban centers, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Houston, Atlanta, have gone completely dark, according to the last remaining regional grid monitors. Emergency substations are offline. Backup generators are failing under sustained overload. And the interconnected systems that once balanced the nation's energy flow have fractured beyond repair. We are effectively watching the infrastructure of modern civilization dissolve in real time. Without power, there is no communication, no logistics, no healthcare, no coordination of rescue or relief. Entire cities are falling silent one by one. Across the Midwest, entire regions have vanished from the relay network. Independent ham operators are still intermittently reporting short-range transmissions. Fragmented voices repeating survival instructions in multiple languages. Many of these signals appear to be automated emergency loops, left running in isolation, broadcasting into a world that may no longer be listening. Analysts within remaining defense and science circles now agree. Organized command as we knew it no longer exists. What remains is decentralized chaos, scattered survivors, unverified transmissions, and isolated systems running until their batteries fail.
No nation has declared a ceasefire. No leader, no government, no authority has addressed the world. The last verified transmission from any recognized state came 37 minutes ago. A faint, encoded broadcast believed to have originated from a surviving naval vessel somewhere in the North Atlantic. Its final words: "We have no further orders. God help us all." After that, only silence. Civilian distress calls still break through the static at random intervals. Faint voices pleading for connection, for instruction, but most fade within seconds, buried beneath the growing wall of electromagnetic distortion now blanketing half the planet's upper atmosphere. This distortion, caused by overlapping detonations and ionized fallout, has rendered long-range communication nearly impossible. Atmospheric noise has risen to levels never recorded in human history. Even satellites still intact are blind to Earth's surface. What's unfolding is not just the end of power or leadership, it's the erasure of global connectivity itself. Every system that once bound humanity together, electricity, speech, signal, is unraveling.
The surrounding region has sustained absolute, irreversible devastation. From multiple satellite confirmations and the fragmented eyewitness accounts still reaching us, entire metropolitan sectors have been reduced to molten wastelands. What were once cities, dense with life, light, and motion, are now indistinguishable fields of ash and glass. The heat signatures coming through orbital sensors show surface temperatures comparable to the outer layers of the sun, searing the Earth into liquid form. The impact zones stretch for miles. Bridges, railways, industrial complexes, all erased in seconds. The blast waves leveled everything, crushing steel and concrete as though they were paper. This isn't warfare in any recognizable sense. This is annihilation. Power stations, hospitals, emergency command posts, all vaporized. Communications towers are gone. Data centers incinerated. Transmission lines turned to dust. Civil authority no longer exists in the affected zones. The chain of survival has been completely severed. There are no functioning grids, no coordination between agencies, no organized rescue. Every known system that defines civilization, electricity, medicine, transport, has ceased to operate.
Those beyond the immediate detonation zones are now confronting the secondary horror, radiation. Local fallout readings are already reaching fatal intensity, and the contamination is spreading fast. Survivors describing ashen rain and luminous dust settling from the sky are unknowingly breathing lethal isotopes. Reports from outlying areas tell of people collapsing mid-sentence, of skin blistering and blood vessels rupturing under invisible assault. The symptoms, burns, vomiting, disorientation, sudden unconsciousness, are textbook acute radiation poisoning. Medical facilities that survived the initial blasts are dark, silent, overwhelmed. No power, no sterile equipment, no antibiotics, no personnel left to treat the dying. Doctors who remain are working by candlelight with bare hands on patients they cannot save. The fallout clouds are moving with the upper winds, converting entire suburbs and towns into exclusion zones within hours. Every gust of air carries the remnants of the detonations, turning the atmosphere itself into a weapon. For those who can still hear us, remain sealed, stay below ground, and avoid any exposure. The air, the rain, even the light outside may now be deadly.
Secondary fires are raging without control across what remains of the city. From every direction, thermal imaging shows entire districts engulfed in continuous sheets of flame. The smaller blazes have fused into massive firestorms, vast, self-sustaining systems that create their own wind, pulling oxygen from miles around. Scientists describe these as atmospheric furnaces, conditions so intense that the air itself burns. The infernos are feeding on every remaining trace of fuel, trees, vehicles, buildings, even the soil. Inside shelters, oxygen depletion is becoming critical. The fires are consuming breathable air faster than sealed systems can replenish it. Temperatures at the core of these firestorms now exceed any survivable threshold, with heat radiating through concrete and underground layers. Reports indicate that those even kilometers away are suffering burns through indirect exposure. The horizon's orange glow you see through the smoke is not sunrise. It's the atmosphere itself combusting. Distant skylines waver and dissolve in the heat distortion. Entire city blocks are reduced to glowing outlines. Smoke plumes have reached the upper atmosphere, visible from orbit, twisting into spirals tens of kilometers high. What we are witnessing now is not just destruction, it is atmospheric collapse.
Atmospheric monitoring systems, what few still function, confirm a near total disintegration of local weather stability. Wind currents have become erratic, shifting violently as the rising heat from firestorms collides with cooler upper air. The result is chaos. Walls of wind and ash sweeping across entire regions, scattering irradiated particles over hundreds of miles. The fallout plume continues to expand eastward, described by observers as a white horizon, a blinding, luminous haze so dense it reflects its own light. It gives the illusion of perpetual daylight even in the dead of night, a false sun born of devastation. Radiation readings within the plume are fatal within minutes of exposure. Survivors describe the sensation of the air itself burning their lungs, of light that stings the skin. Experts, before losing contact, issued one final advisory: seal all ventilation systems, cover every airway, and do not make contact with rain, wind, or dust. The environment is now fully toxic. The planet's protective layers are tearing apart under thermal and nuclear stress. Channel X will remain on this frequency as long as the equipment holds, transmitting whatever fragments of truth we can, until the static finally takes us.
The outer windows have shattered under the sustained pressure wave. Fragments of glass are scattered across the floor. What little remains of the upper structure has been stripped away. The building's top floors no longer exist. They've been torn off as if by a colossal hand. Through the warped air, we can still make out what used to be the skyline, though it's barely recognizable. Just silhouettes of collapsing towers, blurred by heat distortion. Below us, the city has become an ocean of flame, a single continuous expanse of burning debris. Entire districts have vanished into that inferno. No streets, no landmarks, just waves of fire rolling through what was once civilization. The temperature inside the station is rising sharply. The walls are radiating heat. The ventilation has failed completely, and the oxygen meters are sinking fast. Breathing is becoming difficult. The emergency lighting flickers like a dying heartbeat, each bulb straining for one last pulse of power. Every circuit in this building is fighting for survival, but the grid outside is gone. The hum of electricity that once filled this room has turned into silence, broken only by the distant roar of the burning city.
From the observation panel, the world outside no longer looks like air. It's solid, dense, an undulating wall of orange and white. The atmosphere itself seems to have thickened with dust, smoke, and irradiated ash. The firestorm is no longer advancing in lines. It's spiraling inward, pulling everything toward its core. The heat is bending steel like molten clay. Skyscrapers twist and shimmer, their frames glowing bright red before collapsing in on themselves with slow, mechanical grace. The landscape has no shape now, just movement, brightness, and ruin. Nearby frequencies, still faintly audible through the static, are filled with panic. Voices from shelters reporting oxygen depletion, people suffocating as the flames devour the remaining air. Instruments confirm exterior temperatures exceeding 700 degrees in the open zones. At that heat, concrete liquefies and metal flows like water. No one exposed to the surface can survive. The world outside is no longer a city. It's a furnace, alive, consuming, and absolute.
Radiation monitors have exceeded their maximum thresholds. Every gauge on the panel is pinned in the red. The broadcast tower above us is beginning to lose structural alignment. External sensors show the support beams warping in the heat. Power output from our main transmitter has fallen to 15% and continues to drop. The engineering team has already evacuated what's left of the upper floors. We're alone here now, running everything manually off a failing battery feed. The circuits hum irregularly. We can feel the vibration through the table. Signal stability is deteriorating by the minute. If you can still hear this voice, understand. This may be your final instruction. Stay under cover, no matter what sounds you hear outside. Do not look for light. Do not open doors. And do not answer to anyone. The fallout cloud has reached the city. The rain outside has turned black, thick, oily, and radioactive. Contact with it is immediately lethal. The air smells of metal and smoke. Even a single breath outside could be fatal. Remain sealed where you are. The atmosphere is no longer air. It's poison.
We have lost all official data streams, no government signals, no military relays, no satellite synchronization. Global monitoring networks, before they went dark, indicated that the northern hemisphere is now fully enveloped in a layer of radioactive ash stretching across continents. Sunlight is being blocked. The temperature is already dropping. Within hours, we will enter the first stages of nuclear winter. Day and night will blur into gray. Crops, ecosystems, everything dependent on sunlight will begin to die. The ash will settle into the oceans, the rivers, the soil. There will be no clean water left. This transmission may be one of the last human voices carried across the air before total atmospheric blackout. We've lost connection to every backup relay. No more redundancy, no alternate frequency. After the signal fades, there may be nothing left but static. To whoever is still listening in the dark, this is Channel X. Hold your loved ones close, shelter deep, and remember, you are not alone even if you never hear another voice again.